It's 16 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is WLEA Hornell, 1480 AM. And now Kevin Doran is going to host the call-in program between Hornell Mayor Shawn Hogan and Republican challenger Mike Caruso. Kevin?
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. You kind of told what's happening here on WLEA. We're now going to open our microphones to our listeners and give them a chance to call the candidates. Mike Caruso, the Republican candidate for mayor, and Shawn Hogan, the Democrat incumbent mayor. Now, a couple of ground rules, first of all. We are opening this up for questions, not for speeches. So if you want to call in and ask a question of one candidate or both, fine. This is not a time for you to call up with a speech, and I will not tolerate any kind of personal attacks on either one of these gentlemen who've been kind enough to come in here and take questions from the listeners live, unrehearsed. So if you're calling up with the intention of insulting somebody or making a speech, please save yourself the trouble. I'll cut you off. We're really interested in giving you a chance to ask questions of the candidates. You may direct the question at both candidates or at either one. We have a caller on the line, and we'll go to the phone in a moment. First of all, I remind you our number is area code 607, naturally, 324-1480. As we meet the candidates here on WLA, we go to call one. Good morning. Good afternoon, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. My question is to Mr. Caruso. I wonder if elected, if the city's going to be run like on a Saturday, Sunday basis, like it was when the Washington School went down. Now, this hasn't been an issue yet. The Washington School went down. He purchased it. It was supposed to be a landmark and everything, and all of a sudden they were going to refurbish it, and it was part of an agreement. All of a sudden it comes down on a Saturday. You know, I mean, if this, you know, if this is what's going to happen, if things are going to be done behind the residents' backs and everything like that, I mean, what good's it going to do?
Okay, I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but I don't have to answer it. All right, go ahead. Mike Caruso, go ahead.
I'm glad you brought that question up. You brought up quite a bit that you really don't know a lot about, okay? The Washington School came down after a study was done, and it wasn't paid by the taxpayers, by the way, the study wasn't. It was paid by myself. We were going to try to make apartment units out of it. I brought Cromwell Construction with an architect and engineer out of Rochester, New York. It was economically unfeasible to do. When I took that school down, I saved the taxpayers, the school district taxpayers, at least $500,000. I took a problem off their hands. Nobody seemed to want to give me any credit for that, though. Everything was done proper and by the book. So I think the taxpayers should be thankful what I did for them. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, caller? Anything else? Thank you. We'll go to our next caller. Hello, you're on the air.
Mike, this is Mark Mahoney calling from the Hornell Police Department. I've heard threats that if you're elected, you're going to be doing away with the K-9 program. This is a program that's funded totally by me going out and getting donations and doing seminars and obedience classes. It's not funded by the taxpayers at all. Why would you want to get away with a program like that?
Well, Mark, I'll tell you what. Mike Caruso, nor anybody in his campaign, has made any threats, okay? There's been an awful lot of rumors started since this campaign's going on, and if people look where they're coming from from City Hall. I have made the statement several times that the police department overtime budget was $20,000 over and above what they had allotted. I plan on bringing that back in line. I plan on getting management back on the job, and not in Albany and Vermont and all over the country. As far as each thing that goes on with the department, we'll have to take a look at it and see what we can afford at the time. But as of date, I have not said anything about eliminating the dog.
Well, on August 4th at the Ox Roast, Mike, you specifically told Officer Jerry Murray, who has the horse, he was going to do away with the horse and the canine. I'm just wondering, you know, why you're saying one thing and then you change your mind and make a different statement.
Mark, I don't know what the purpose of your call is, but you've been bad-mouthing me all over the community, and if you think that's fit for a police officer to be doing, I think you ought to take a look at the rules and regulations and also take a look at yourself, okay? A lot of things are said, but I have not said anything. It would be a foolish part on my part to say I'm going to do something that I haven't taken an in-depth look at. I don't make foolish decisions, Mark.
Well, that's what I was wondering, why you made a decision or made a statement like that without looking at it. That's all I have to say.
Okay, we'll go to the next caller. Thank you.
Just in response to
Yes.
something that Mike said there, that rumors have emanated from City Hall. I don't know where Mike gets that. In any political campaign, and unfortunately more in this one than any other, there's been a lot of campaign rhetoric and a lot of rumors floating around, not only involving both candidates. I don't lay claim to any of those rumors, Mike, and I would not do that. If you're going to have that type of thing, fortunately I can look in the mirror and be honest and know that it has not emanated from me.
Let's go back to the phones. Hello, you're on the air.
Kevin?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to address this to the mayor.
Okay.
Mayor, how come at one end of Park Drive we have people that are only paying like 10% of what they should be under taxes, and the other end the people are only paying 9%, and the new buildings in the middle are paying 40 to 50% more than the people on the end are paying? I don't understand this, because the people in the middle are the people from Hornell, and the people on the ends are from out of town. They get more of a tax break than us local people. I don't understand that. Could you explain that to me?
Sure, Jerry. You're talking about the tax structure and the taxation. The PNC Plaza, or the Railroad Center Mall, was a significant industrial, a significant commercial development of over $2 million that employs many people and generates a lot of sales tax. One of the things that they invoked when they came into the community was to a payment in lieu of taxes schedule, which they do pay payment in lieu of taxes to the IDA of about $15,000 per year, and that's distributed to the school district and the city of Hornell. As far as your new building goes, and we have talked about it many times in regards to your assessment, Jerry, I'm not the assessor, and I don't control that. And it's good that the assessments are controlled politically, because then you'd have all kinds of problems with that. The assessor is a civil service position. They assess based on current standards, and there is an avenue through the appeal board and then through court cases to deal with anyone who is upset with assessments. You have taken it to one step. You've taken it to the appeal board. You have not taken it to a certiorari or to the court, and I've pushed you to do so. But also, Jerry, you neglect to say that you took advantage of 485B, which is the real property tax law that allows a 50% tax reduction in the first year and 45 the second, and downscale through the 10th year when it goes to full value. So you have taken advantage of that, and I informed you of that program. As far as you're upset with your assessment, you have to continue on to court or go back to the appeal board. That is a process that's out of my hands.
Mayor, who pays? Where does Vicky get her pay from?
Pardon me?
Where does Vicky get her pay from? Does she get it from the city, or does she get it from...
She is a civil service employee that took an exam. She's on the city payroll. She gets it from the city general fund.
So, apparently, when she comes around and assesses these things, that maybe we ought to give her more schooling, because I know if I price something out the wrong way, and my people do, I either have to come down on them or get rid of them or go out of business. And I've taken advantage of that tax law because that was offered to me when you build new.
And,
but that doesn't mean I should be paying 10 times what PNC should be paying, so I'm getting 50% off, because 10 years from now I'm going to be paying up through the nose.
Like I said, Jerry, I think you've got to complete the process.
I tried to complete it. My lawyer tried to complete the process with your lawyer and got no place.
Well, it's not with our lawyers. The process, you can take it to a certiorari, to court, and have the court rule on it. That's the answer to that question. We can argue about this all day.
Well, I feel it's awful. I mean, I got a list of people right here, and the other one is not. The other one, Covered Wagon, is not on assessment, or is not under the IDA. The other one, Covered Wagon, has got. Let me see. I got my lot cost me $3,000, and they assessed it for $15,000. Covered Wagon's got 5 acres. I got a half an acre. His assessment should be $150 just for his land. His assessment is
$99,000. Now, how is that fair? We're both from Hornell.
Jerry, like I said, you're arguing the wrong fellow. I'm not the assessor, or nor I am the appeal board. You have to continue that to go to those process. There's a legal process that's set up to handle those.
In other words, you have no control over.
Would it be fair for me, Jerry, to say yes? I believe Jerry Farringer is being over assessed, and go to the assessor and have that done. Wouldn't you think people would think that's playing a little politics and favoritism? Jerry, that's why the process is set up like it is. There's a balance of powers.
I've been there twice and got thrown out twice.
Well, then I think you should continue to go back or get another lawyer and fight it.
Yeah, and it costs you all kinds of money.
Okay, caller, we got a lot of people waiting, and if it's okay, I'd like to move along. Is that all right, Jerry? Okay, let's go to the...
I'd like to say something on that last call, if I could, Kevin.
All right, go ahead.
I can kind of sympathize with Jerry down there having a new building in town, and he sees retailers coming in up the street, PNC and Faze, and they're putting up new buildings, and the Hornell City taxpayers are subsidizing them, but yet we don't look at food barns closed up, and we've lost Brooks Drug Store on Main Street. Jerry, when he gets to his full assessment, is going to be paying almost $8,000. That's an awful lot of money to be paying in property taxes right off the top when you run a small business, so I can sympathize with Jerry.
So can I, Mike. And, there's a process to follow, and that's why he's got to follow it.
All right, we have a caller on. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I have a question for both candidates.
Okay.
Is there any waste in city government? And if so, in what specific areas?
Is there any way to what? I didn't catch that.
Is there any waste in city government?
Is there any waste in city government? And you want both candidates to answer that question, is that right?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you very much. All right, go ahead. Whoever wants to go first.
Well, I certainly hope there isn't waste. I can't categorically sit here and say that there isn't. That's like the President of the United States or the Governor of the State of New York saying that there isn't any waste in their government. Obviously, we are a little bit in a better position locally to control that. I have what I feel are some of the best department heads that we could ever have in the city of Hornell, and I'm confident that they are doing what they should be doing. Anyone can be criticized at any point in time for any type of thing, but I would say categorically that if we do all we can to get the best services for the least amount of money, and I would say, to be honest, probably incidents where there is some mistakes made and there is some waste. But if we find out about it, we correct it. And I pride myself on our financial management, and I pride myself on the jobs that my department heads do.
All right, now that was Shawn Hogan and Mike Caruso. If you want to respond, she asked both candidates, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that. I feel that we have good city employees. One of my problems is with the city employee department heads. We seem to have absentee management down at City Hall. We got a chief of police in Albany all the time. We got the mayor that's in Albany all the time with Jim Griffin. We have the department, the superintendent buying property on the side hill and the taxpayers' money putting roads in up there. We have a street out on Madison Avenue that has been needed to be repaved for the last 5 or 6 years, but yet we're on the side hill using taxpayers' money, putting in roads to a private development so we can turn the road over to the taxpayers. I don't believe in that type of government.
Well, let me respond because there's obviously some allegations there. Mike has made some political fodder out of the fact that I'm president of the New York State Conference of Mayors, an honor that I am very proud to hold, and an office I'm very proud to hold, and I think it helps the city of Hornell just because of the stature it gives our community. In response to Mike, I have been out of town in Albany once, and that was in February. I have not been in Albany since February of this year. I also attended a mayor's conference in June for several days when I was inducted as president of the New York State Conference of Mayors. I haven't been out of town since. I work 10 to 12 hours a day. I'm available 24 hours a day, and I'm at functions and visiting the communities and neighborhoods around the city on weekends and attending events. So for Mike to say that I'm an absentee mayor and I'm always in Albany is a blatant, I would say, untruth. And as far as the police chief also is president of the New York State Police Chiefs Association, which requires that he be out of town on a number of occasions. And the Board of Public Safety and the City of Hornell Common Council knows that he has this position. And Mark Whitman is out of town, and those requires to be out of town for those functions. But also, when he comes back, he's working weekends. He's there nights. So Mark Whitman is an outstanding police chief, and I don't believe he should be criticized in that nature.
All right, now
I'd like to respond to that.
Okay, you know what's happening? We're getting a debate going here, but don't blame me if you guys get a debate going. All right,
no, we're not debating. I'm not one. I'm not saying Mark Whitman is not a good police chief. I think Mark Whitman's very qualified. Okay, I don't think the taxpayers should be subsidizing your political career, Shawn, or the chief of police. We have a chief of police that's in Corning teaching. We have a chief of police that goes down to ball games in Elmira. He used to when I worked down there, and the taxpayers put the gas in his car. They paid his wages, and he collected a check, Empire and Games. I brought that problem to you several times, Shawn. You overlooked it. We wouldn't be here today on the radio if you'd have started listening a little while ago.
Well, that certainly is not a problem that was overlooked, Mike. The chief of police has a car that's provided to him by the city, as the fire chief. And they use that as their vehicles. It's part of the remuneration. And every community in the state of New York provides the same courtesies to their police chief and their fire chief. Now let's get back to Dave Oakes. You've made an allegation about Dave Oakes. Dave Oakes is probably the hardest working individual in this city, and he has done more to restructure the Public Works Department into a tremendous workforce that saves this community a tremendous amount of money. And these are people you're going to have to work with, Mike, if you are elected mayor. And how do you expect to work with these people by personally attacking them all the time?
I didn't personally attack anybody, okay? If the taxpayers look between now and November 2nd, I was on Seneca Street the other day at 10 after 8, and I seen 5 DPW trucks go by me within a matter of 2 minutes. I stopped and talked to the crews when they're standing around. I say, what's going on, guys? Well, we'd like to go further, but we don't dare. We don't have the supervision, all right? Nobody's personally attacking, and I think Dave Oakes is a good man, okay? But I think we got to buckle down and get a little bit better.
Gentlemen, I got to interrupt just a second. We got a lot of people waiting here. We billed it as a call-in, and as I understand it, there has been no debate agreed upon. I'm not personally opposed to you two going at it, but that wasn't the ground rule that you both agreed to. So let's go back to the phones, and thank you for waiting. They didn't wait. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, I got a question for Mr. Hogan.
Hogan, okay.
I'd like to know if you feel the IDA under Jim Griffin is doing a good job for Hornell. And I'd also like to know if Mr. Caruso agrees with the mayor's response or not.
All right, now we have two questions there. One, do you think the IDA under Jim Griffin is doing a good job? And he wants Mr. Caruso to respond to the same question. So go ahead.
I believe the record is there. You know, Jim Griffin and I have to work together, and Jim over the years and myself have not seen eye to eye on a number of projects and concerns. But we've worked well together in promoting the city of Hornell. I think the agency and Jim as executive director have done a tremendous job for this city. A lot of people sit back and criticize, and they make assumptions that aren't there. But Jim is a tireless worker for the city of Hornell, does an outstanding job in a recruiting industry and in trying to retain industry here. People have got to understand economic development is a very competitive business. And I think Hornell IDA is looked upon statewide in the Northeast as one of the finest IDAs in the country. So yes, I think that everyone can always do better, me included. But I believe we've done an outstanding job. Jim has done an outstanding job. The agency has done an outstanding job, and I think we'll continue to do that.
All right, Mike Caruso's response.
My feelings on the IDA is that the director's been there 20 years, okay? He makes $100,000, $200,000. I don't think anybody really knows. I'm not saying he's doing a good job. I'm not saying he's doing a bad job. I feel that we have two Jim Griffins running around Hornell right now. I think that maybe Jim ought to step aside and maybe have Shawn take that slot, because I think Shawn could do a good job in there. He seems to have the connections around Albany and stuff, and I think that'd be a good position for him. Bring some new blood and new ideas into the position. And I take care of the little details in the city.
All right, you're listening to a call-in program aimed at the two candidates, Mike Caruso, Republican candidate for mayor, and Democrat Shawn Hogan, the incumbent. And a moment ago I said we were not trying to have a debate. Let me explain that. There's been some issue here between these two as to is someone dodging a debate or they both want a debate. So when I sent the letters out, I said, look, it's not a debate. We'll set that aside. It's a chance for people to call in. But a few minutes ago in my office, I said, don't be surprised if you start exchanging between each other, and I'm not opposed to that as long as you both agree. Now, we go back to the phones, and I'll pick up 4141. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hi, Kevin.
Yes.
I think this is a question for our city attorney. So I'll ask Shawn Hogan to respond, please.
All right.
When are we going to get back our money from the Gates-Hornell deal? And why has the Bacobo project on Pleasant Street been sitting around for half a decade?
Okay. To answer your first question, the Gates-Rockwell deal was one that we put together to attract the department store to the former Tullen-Rockwell building. We were very excited about that project, and if it had been a success, certainly I think the community would have been very excited about it. Unfortunately, it was a failure. The principals in the Gates-Rockwell declared bankruptcy. We had a legal and personal guarantee from those individuals, but you can't get blood out of a rock, so to speak. We exercised every legal option we could to try to regain that money, and if the individual ever comes into any money, certainly we have liens on that. Unfortunately, in the bankruptcy court, which I'm not familiar with, but there was no assets that could be identified. So we'll continue to work on that. But as far as the Bacobo property, that property is now on the tax rolls. That is owned by Francisco Bacobo and being managed locally by Midas Development Company or Painter Realty. That is owned by them. It's privately owned, and if I would much prefer to see that house occupied, but they do maintain it. They do have heat and light in it, and they pay their taxes. So other than that, I can't tell a private citizen what corporations out in Chicago, Illinois, and we had a hard time tracing the title of the property. And it's a very legal and complicated process, but that was one of the problems, Mike.
Now, we have a caller waiting. We can come back to that if you want to, but I want people to call in. They have a chance. Go ahead. You're on the air. Thank you for waiting. Hello?
Yes.
Go ahead.
This is for Mr. Caruso. He said that he was in charge of the demolition on Washington School, that first question, and it was all up and by the books. Could he tell me who removed the asbestos, and were they state licensed?
Since you brought that up, okay, I think Mayor Hogan is aware of this, since the DEC, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of Labor, Mark Moore, let's see who else was over. We had every agency in New York State over there, okay. I called John Swanson, the DEC in Avon, New York, and I explained his situation. He advised me that I would have to, if I own the property, I could remove that myself. If I did remove it, I would have to double bag it. It would have to go in a landfill liner that I could not transport over 500 pounds at a time. So in the process of a year, I removed it and I bagged it. And I took it over to the county. And when I took it over to the county, I not only took pictures, I had the people at the county punch my ticket where it says asbestos from Washington School. I declared it. So everything we did was on the up and up.
It's all...
Okay?
No legal problems at all, or...
You never can tell what's going to come up in politics.
Yeah, but there's no problems with the community or anything with that.
Why don't you tell me? I don't have any problems with anything.
This is how you're going to up and up run the city.
I don't know what you're getting at, lady.
All right.
I don't know what you're getting.
Anything else, caller?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the next caller. Thank you for waiting. You're on the air.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing? It's Ken Freeman calling. I have a question for Shawn in relationship to some property and street on Willow Place, and then after Shawn makes his comments, I would like Mike to see if Mike agrees with the comments that were told to me, brought back to me by the present alderman over here in the 3rd Ward.
All right.
The question I have is I had some property damage done by what I feel is a sinkhole on Willow Place. Not only has it affected my property, but it's also affected the property on either side of my property. What it appears to me is that there's a sinkhole partially out into the street, and it's caused the porches and the pillars on all 3 of these properties to tip out and causing the porches to fall down. I have since replaced my porch, but the one on either side of me hasn't been replaced. I brought it to my alderman's attention that I felt the city should take care of this problem, or at least look into it. And when he got back to me several months later, he told me that Mr. Hogan and LaBella, the architectural firm for the city of Hornell, came down and looked at it, physically took a look at it, and said that, well, if I wanted to dig it up and they found that it was the city's problem, then they would pay for it. I feel that the biggest indentation is in the street area where it started at, and that the city should be responsible for digging that up and making those necessary repairs rather than the property owner. And I don't feel that we're as taxpayers of the city of Hornell, I feel that DPW should be responsible for the streets and check out any complaints. And if anybody wanted to come down and look, they could tell where the lowest part is in fact in the street which the city owns.
Oh, okay, Ken. Now you want the mayor to respond to that?
I want the mayor to respond to that, and I want Mike to give his opinion on it.
I get you. Okay, go ahead.
First of all, Ken, that's been a problem that's been broached by several aldermen. When Tom Sheedy represented the 3rd Ward, he also brought that to the Board of Public Works' attention. And in kind, so has Billy Norton. We have taken a look at that. Our engineers have taken a look at that, and we just can't determine that the problem is in Willow Place in the street. You and the house next door to you seem the only ones that are affected. There doesn't appear to be any structural undermining there, and I rely on my engineers and also Dave Oak's expertise, who's been around a long time in the city, and he certainly, if there was a problem, it would be taken care of. But as far as any sinkhole on Willow Place, there's just no evidence of that. Anytime you have in that area where our housing stock's about 85 years of age on average, and you have older homes, they do settle at some times, particularly in that area where there's been a lot of work over the years on the flood control wall and banks in that area. So it may, the problem has not been ignored, if that's what you're trying to get at, because it's been bandied about for a number of years, and we just can't determine that the city has any responsibility in that particular situation.
All right, now, Mike Caruso, you want to respond? He asked you to respond to that, so go ahead.
I'm sorry I don't know enough about it to give an intelligent answer, so I'm lost for words on that one.
We'll go to the phones, and thank you for waiting, and I'm sorry that you had to wait so long. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question for Shawn.
All right.
Is the money the city's receiving from the Ledger contract with the county going into the city sewer budget where it'll be needed for future maintenance, or if not, why or where is it going?
Which contract was that now?
The Leachate?
Leachate? Is that what it is? Leachate. Okay, right. All right. Go ahead.
Right now, we have an agreement with the county to treat leachate from the new Bath landfill. And leachate, what it is groundwater or rain that filters through the garbage or waste in the landfill, right, and is collected in a collection system, and it has to be treated. We are treating that now, and we hopefully will receive about $150,000 this year, depending on the amount of leachate we take. Mm-hmm. We've been doing that now since about June or July, when we finally received our Speedies permit. That money basically will go into the general fund, but we also have money that goes into a capital reserve fund for the water pollution control plant. We have upwards of $100 and some thousand in that now. All the money that's brought in for the violations of flow from Crowley's and other place, that goes into the special account, the capital reserve fund for the water pollution control plant. We're very up on that, and we're very concerned. And first of all, we're very proud of our water pollution control plant and the people that operate it. They do an outstanding job. But we also have an eye on the future and putting money aside for any future maintenance that may be needed.
Right. I'd like to make a little note on a copy of the leachate contract I got, where it was 6.6 cents a gallon. Apparently the city was in dire straits to open up some relationship with the county, so they cut it to 3 cents. The contract date starts April 1st, 1993, and it ends March 31st, 1993. Somebody ought to look at the contract. We've got a negative 1 day in the contract. Another little detail being overlooked.
There may be a typo there, Mike, but we have a permit with the county. It's which you haven't.
I've got a copy of the permit, so I'm talking about the contract that was notarized with you and Stoner Horry.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that contract did not come to fruition because the former superintendent of public works for the county left that position. The new commissioner, Vince Baglinetti, came in and renegotiated that contract because he went to bid with it. And he got a lower bid from a firm in Syracuse that was going to haul and treat for about 8 cents a gallon. So we went back and reviewed our figures and found that we could treat the leachate for 3 cents a gallon, which the county agreed to, and they had a hauling contract which they put out to haul it here for about 3 cents a gallon. So in effect, because we worked closely with the county in this and negotiated with them, saved the county taxpayers about 2 cents on the best deal they had so far, and also puts revenue in the city of Hornell's coffers. So I'm very proud of the initiative of seeking alternate sources of revenue to lighten the tax burden on our residents, and certainly we're going to continue to do that wherever possible.
All right, caller, you're still there. Did you have anything more you wanted to ask about leachate?
He said the money went into the general fund, and I didn't know exactly what that meant. If it went into...
It's considered a revenue source, but we are taking care of the water pollution control plant because we do have a capital reserve fund where money goes into a rainy day fund for any future maintenance needs. So we're on top of that, and we are doing, I believe, an excellent job in maintaining and looking for the future maintenance of our facilities.
All right, 12 minutes to go on this program. Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to make a little comment. So what you're saying, if we have to update the plant and stuff, that we're not going to have to raise the rates or go out and borrow the money because you're putting money away because of the extra water being treated down there, and if we have to have an update or the pumps burn out or anything, we need any maintenance.
Well, you're always going to have that. The leachate is put in.
Well, it's revenue from what I understand coming in.
It's good revenue,
it's like you put it in the bank account and then you got it for a rainy day when you have a problem at your sewer plant.
But what I'm saying to you, the leachate has to be treated on no more than 21 gallons per minute. It's got to be fed in.
It's got to be fed
in. And we are aware of it. We're taking very good care of our plant. Okay.
Let me go back to the phones. We have people waiting patiently. Thank you, caller. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes. Hi. Shawn Hogan.
Speaking.
I've got a question for him, and I would like Mike Caruso's response afterwards.
All right.
Knowing that he's a general contractor and so forth and so on.
Go ahead.
3 years ago, I live in 8th Ward. My name is Chet Lowe. And we're to a point now where the street is unfinished still. Okay?
What street is it again, caller?
Sherman Street.
Okay.
And it's been like this for like 3 years now. And it's like supposed to be like done by winter. And then it's going to be done in the spring. It's never been finished. And then it's like we had some Hornell rehabilitation done on the house. The driveway was tore up. Okay? And they told us they would get right on it and have someone fix it. Well, they had it fixed. And then it went from that to me going to Chicago and coming back, doing it myself, and spending my time and my labor hours doing it myself by hand. It was never done by the city like Shawn Hogan and Mr. Oakes promised. I would like Shawn Hogan's response to that, and then I want to know what Mr. Caruso would have done, knowing that a contract is a contract, and what he would have done.
Okay. Chet, we
first
got
of all,
it.
there's two questions there, and I know what Chet's referring to. Sherman Street, for all practical purposes, is complete. I don't know if they had some type of misconception. I know there's a block of sidewalk that has to be put in, and I'm sure that'll be taken care of. But as far as all the conversations I've had with Dave Oakes, and we've been on that street, and I've certainly just been down that street, for all practical purposes, the street is complete. There may be some people who may be dissatisfied with certain aspects of that work, and certainly when we know about it, we'll try to accommodate them if it's possible to accommodate them. Now, he's referring to a driveway. Community development contractors installed some water lines, I believe, and it went through a driveway that was of gravel, made up of gravel consistency. I got a call from, I think, Chet's mother, Betty Lowe, who expressed some concern that they had not been back to fix it. I got a hold of our community development inspector, and I got him right on the job. Apparently, Bob worked with Betty, and she's still not satisfied with the result of what they came up with to replace the gravel substance. What they did was take some millings, which is a good solid surface, and put it in the driveway. That would make, after some settlement, will make an excellent surface for that driveway. They're not happy with that. It was a gravel driveway. I don't expect that the city or the community development program is going to put in macadam where there was gravel. They tried to do the best job. You can't please everybody, and in this instance, if they're not pleased, they have the opportunity to come back and discuss it. They have not done that, as far as I know.
I'm not quite sure what the gentleman was talking about as far as the problems up there, but if the street's not finished, that's not surprising me. There's streets all over town, they start and they don't finish. I'm still waiting for my street to be finished. It took 8 weeks. It didn't bother me, but I had a mechanic out back trying to make a living, and he had a tough time getting in and out for 8 weeks. Many days the guy stood around because they needed help, they needed guidance. So I can understand what he's talking about.
All right, back to the phones. Hello, you're on the air.
I have a question for Mike Caruso.
All right.
Mike, you've repeatedly said that this is a working man's campaign and that you are the working man's candidate. I wondered what you meant by that.
Well, the people that support Hornell are basically working people that to get out in their blue-collar workers. They normally don't exercise their right to vote, but I think it's imperative they get out this year and vote because of the way the taxes is going, the way their money is being spent. And our message is getting through. I think we're going to have a good turnout voting day. We got to get more people involved than the people that got their hands in the cookie jar. That's what I mean by that.
Well, let me respond to that. Talk about working man campaign. Well, I consider myself a working man, and my grandfather was an engineer on the railroad. In fact, died working for the Erie Railroad. My uncle worked for the Erie Railroad. My father used to go around and haul laundry in town because his father died young to make a living. He got a scholarship to the University of Michigan. I know all about the working man. I know all about Hornell, and I know about its citizens. They want good quality leadership, and I think I provide that quality leadership. So I'm a working man. I've cleaned toilets. I've washed ditches. I've dug ditches. I've done everything to work my way through college. So I'm pretty proud and consider myself a working man also.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air. We have about 5 minutes to go. 324-1480 for those of you who want to take a shot at getting in here. Go ahead, caller.
2 quick questions for Mike Caruso, please.
All right.
Mike, you've got a sign up by the old where the Washington School was that you want to get 2 out of City Hall. I know Shawn's one. Who's the other one that you want to displace?
Well, I think the one that runs the city is Jim Griffin, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about Jim. I personally like Jim. He's a personable guy, but I think he pulls all Shawn's strings. I think that's not fair to the rest of the taxpayers. Does that answer your question, sir?
Well, I never knew that he was down to City Hall, but maybe you know something that I don't.
Maybe I should take a picture when he pulls up right out front on the sidewalk and parks that big black Cadillac on the front sidewalk.
Well, I
can't even park it legal.
I sometimes in the City Hall, too, but it doesn't mean that Well, and the second question is, Shawn has repeatedly said that he wants the town to be beautified more, to teach people to have pride in their neighborhoods. And you've made the statement that 50% of the places in town are rental properties, and it seems like there is a lot of that. I don't know if 50%'s right, but there's a lot of trouble with keeping the rental people to keep their property up. John's proposed specific programs for property owners. What different would you do if you were mayor to get the city looking like we would all like it to look?
Well, first of all, when I got a guy planting flowers, Bill Pratt used to plant flowers for the city. I thought he was doing a good job. I don't know where he got sidelined to, but now we hire a horticulture for the wintertime to plant flowers. As far as the percentage of rentals in town, I really don't know. I think if we could lighten the tax burden to the landlords and the tenants, maybe they'd have money left over to fix their properties.
First of all, let me respond to what I felt was an uncalled for comment on the part of Mike in regards to Jim Griffin pulled my strings. Mike, I've always been my own man. I'm my own man, and no one pulls my strings. I'm the boss. I'm the boss in this community. I'm the boss as the appointing officer, nominating officer of the agency members. I have a lot to say in what goes on with the IDA. To say such a thing, Mike, is just something that I think is low and uncalled for, because I take great pride in my leadership ability and what's been accomplished in this city. And to sit here for the last 43 minutes and listen to someone tear down a record that I believe is very commendable and recognized through the state as commendable, I think is atrocious.
Your record or Jim's, Shawn?
My record.
Okay.
Let's go back to the phones. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, I would like to know how any local taxpayer can grant Mike Caruso credibility when his name has been listed in the past 2 listings for delinquent taxes.
All right. Question about taxes to Mike Caruso. Go ahead.
I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to listen on the radio one day. I thought Kevin cleared that up when Brian Shue called him. He played it the whole day. I'm hoping Kevin saved that tape. There's a technicality. 4 or 5 years ago, there was a gentleman in the community that wanted to purchase a house. The gentleman didn't have the money. Tom Hunt and myself owned the house together. We went and sold the house, and we're in the process of taking it back through the court system. All my taxes are paid on the properties I do own, and it's a technicality that was explained by Brian Shue on the radio one day. Did you call it, Kevin, the day he called you up?
I do. I don't recall exactly what he said, but I do remember the story.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. One more caller, I think.
Well, let me comment.
Go ahead.
And I'm not talking about Mike's tax situation. That's his business. But the situation is with the neighborhood preservation committees and the beautification of our neighborhoods. Well, as I said earlier, 85%, I mean, our average age of our housing stock is 85 years of age. We certainly need to instill and promote pride in ownership and pride in our neighborhoods again. I think we're making some progress in some neighborhoods across the city of Hornell. We have to do more, and we're continuing to do more with the community development program, but people have to get involved, and people have to take back their neighborhoods, and I'm willing to help them do that.
Okay, now wait a minute, gentlemen, our time is gone. We have 3 callers on the line that we're not going to get to, and I apologize to them, and I want to thank both of you for being here and taking those calls. Another program like this is scheduled for 27 October, which would be just a few days before the election. It seems to me there could be enough interest to have another one between now and then, but we definitely have one on 27 October. I want to thank you both for being with us, and I want to thank all the callers who took part in the program. You've been listening to a call-in session with Mayor Hogan and his Republican challenger, Mike Caruso, here on WLEA in Hornell. Again, thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you, Kevin.